Wine, an ancient beverage. I believe wine can have the ability to transport the taster to a specific moment captured by nature. The perfect time-traveling vessel that reveals the secrets of nature with every sip. A secret, a story, alchemy, an art form from nature. So where did it all start? In this lesson, we start our journey into the world of wine appreciation. Like with any journey into the unknown, all we must do is take the first step. In this lesson, we will do just that. Start from the very beginning. We will dive into the origin of wine, where it all began, how it evolved, and how it got to where it is today. I'd like to welcome you from all of us here at Shaw Academy. Here at Shaw, we aspire to equip you with the knowledge and tools to help you empower yourself and reach your dreams today. Congratulations on signing up for your professional diploma in wine appreciation, and welcome to Lesson 1. You have successfully taken the first step into the world of wine, and today we'll start from the very beginning. So before we get started, allow me to introduce myself. My name is Julia Blaine. I'm a qualified winemaker, and it is my pleasure to take you on a journey through the wonderful world of wine. I have a degree in viticulture and enology, and have had the privilege of working 11 seasons in the wine industry, both in the cellar and in the vineyards, locally and internationally. A quote that I really love is one by Salvador Dali, and it reads as follows: "He who knows how to taste wine does not drink wine, but savors secrets." So I'm hoping that throughout this course, you too will learn to savor the secrets of wine. By the end of today's lesson, you'll have a good understanding of the history and origin of wine, and you'll be able to list the top 3 wine-producing countries. You'll also be able to define and explain the basics of viticulture, a subject that is of critical importance in the world of wine. And lastly, you'll be able to discuss the basics of the alchemy that is alcoholic fermentation. Before we dive into the world of wine, I'd like to take a moment to let you know that should you have any questions, please feel free to chat with Morpheus, our resident AI bot. The cool thing about Morpheus is that the more you interact with him by asking questions, the smarter he will become. With that being said, should any odd answers appear, please let us know and don't hesitate to rate your experience so that we can continue to improve. We really value your feedback and want to help you reach your goals and make your dreams come true. So if you have any further questions or queries, please feel free to reach out to us at support@shawacademy.com. Have you ever heard the Latin phrase, in vino veritas? It means that in wine there is truth. Vino Veritas will be your little study buddy throughout the course. I'll be hiding him somewhere in all of your lessons, so keep your eyes peeled. So let's start from the very beginning with a little bit of history. Although the specifics of the origin of wine are still somewhat unknown, it is believed that the earliest production of wine is about 7,000 years ago in Colchis, modern-day Georgia. There's also evidence that suggests that in 7000 BC, the Chinese fermented honey and fruit together in clay amphoras, some of the oldest pottery shards known to man. In 2007, the oldest winery was discovered in Armenia. According to historians, wine had been produced there since 7000 BC. Wine played a very important role in ancient Egypt. Large quantities of wine jars were found in burial tombs from the early dynastic period, which is around 3000 BC. Wine was there as sustenance for the deceased in the afterlife, as well as offerings to the spirits of the dead. Wine jars that were found in Tutankhamun's tomb were even inscribed with the vintage, which is the year the wine was produced, the origin, which is the area of production, the qualification and sweetness, and even the winemaker's name. This is so similar to the same information that can be found on wine labels today. Did you know? The Phoenicians are said to have spread the grapevine Vitis vinifera throughout the Mediterranean. In ancient Greece and Rome, the climate was perfect for the cultivation of vineyards and olives, and wine production thrived there. The Greeks and the Romans really took their wine seriously, and even named gods after wine. Dionysus was the god of frenzies, festivals, spiritual ecstasy, and wine to the Greeks, whereas Bacchus was the Roman god of agriculture, wine, and fertility. So, what do you think ancient wine tasted like? Well, methods of preservation were very different to today. Clay pots or amphoras were sealed with tree resin, and this imparted a turpentine flavor into the wine. Some wines were infused with herbs and spices to impart flavor and add medicinal properties to the drink. The Greeks would sometimes drop a burnt piece of toast into their wine to mask any foul or unpleasant flavors in the wine. So unfortunately, it doesn't seem like ancient wine tasted good at all. Luckily, mankind was not deterred by this and didn't give up on making wine and improving the quality. Did you know that it was the Greeks who invented the toast? Seeing as poisoning was probably the most popular way of getting rid of people that you didn't like in those days. Toasting became a way to guarantee that your drink was not poisoned. It was believed that if you toast your glass, some of your wine will spill over into the other glass, and this way, if your wine was poisoned, so was everyone else's. After the decline of Rome, the Christian church rose, and thereby the cultivation of vineyards and production of wine increased and spread around Europe, as wine was commonly used in religious ceremonies. In the 14th, 15th, and 16th century, winemaker monks separated themselves from the church and spread their knowledge on winemaking across Europe. Wine became accessible to all social classes, and corks were being used to seal wine bottles instead of using leaves, reeds, tree resin, or oil-soaked rags. Although Rome was known for their incredible architecture, culture, politics, and philosophy, they had huge pollution issues. Poor sanitation led to illness, and the Romans used to add wine to their water to purify it. A big turning point in the history of wine was in the 17th century with the invention of the coal furnace. This dramatically improved the quality and strength of glass production. Wine that was stored in clay amphoras and barrels could be transferred into strong glass. This made storage and distribution of wine more reliable and efficient. Back then, wine bottles used to have fat bottoms and short necks, but over time, the necks grew longer and the bottoms became slimmer. And by the 1820s, the modern wine bottle that we recognize today was patented. Can you guess how old the oldest wine bottle that was ever found is? We'll find out shortly. When we think of a significant moment in history when it comes to alcohol, Prohibition in the United States almost immediately comes to mind. Prohibition lasted 13 long years, from 1920 to 1933. Some anti-alcohol groups claimed that it was common practice to make wine with a bag of cockroaches in an effort to put people off. Interestingly, it wasn't illegal to drink alcohol, only to manufacture and distribute it. Doctors actually had a loophole during Prohibition because they could prescribe alcohol for medicinal use. The limit was a pint of beer every 10 days. Winston Churchill had a doctor's note that prescribed a minimum limit of 250 milliliters of alcohol so that he could drink alcohol while he was visiting America. Winemakers would sell bricks of dried grapes with a warning label with very clear instructions on how to not rehydrate the brick in water and let it ferment into delicious wine. Wine has touched every culture across time in one way or another. Today, vineyards are grown on every single continent except for Antarctica, and the total global vineyard plantings is 7.5 million hectares, which is roughly the size of Ireland. Now, to answer that question from earlier, the world's oldest wine bottle was found in Germany in 1867 and is believed to be nearly 1,700 years old. The bottle was found during the excavation of a Roman nobleman's tomb. The glass bottle had a capacity of 1.5 liters and still contained liquid. Analysis of this liquid revealed that the contents of the bottle was wine, diluted with herbs and preserved with a thick layer of olive oil, and the bottle was sealed with wax. In this case, the olive oil was used to protect the wine from oxidation, and wax is still sometimes used to seal wine bottles today. Back in the day, the trends in the wine industry were set by culture and aristocracy, but this is no longer the case. The world of wine today is filled with experimentation, exploration, and innovation. Today's generation of winemakers and industry professionals have a new way of looking at wine and are in the forefront of setting the trends. There's a sense of curiosity that drives innovation today, and winemakers are seeking out lesser-known grapes and challenging production and packaging norms. The independent producer and local garagiste is no longer a rarity, and with the power of social media and the internet at our fingertips, knowledge is so easily shared across borders. You might have heard a new word there, so I thought I'd take a moment to explain. A garagiste is a small-scale entrepreneurial winemaker, originally from the Bordeaux region of France. These winemakers are ones who do not adhere to the traditions of winemaking. A lot of these winemakers started out just with a couple of barrels in their garage, hence the name garagiste. Many wine producers today are conscious of the environment and seek out sustainable farming and production practices. Today's world of wine is very much alive, dynamic, and filled with imagination, stories, and so much opportunity. Can you guess the top 3 wine-producing countries? They are France, Italy, and Spain. Now that we have covered the basic history and origin of wine in the world, let's get into the specifics. The first thing that you need to know about wine is that wine is made from grapes. And did you know that in 2018, 292 million hectoliters was the total global wine production? That's enough wine to fill up 11,680 Olympic-sized swimming pools. Viticulture is the cultivation of grapes. Now you might wonder, why is viticulture important in a wine appreciation course? Well, wine is made in the vineyard first. And by this, I mean that the better the grapes, the better your chances are of making a great wine. The vine is a perennial plant, meaning that during the spring and summer it will grow and ripen grapes. In autumn, the vine will lose its leaves and will go dormant in winter. Grapes are only harvested once a year, and human intervention is necessary to prune and train the vine so that it can be kept neatly trellised and focus all of its energy on growing and ripening the precious grapes. Before we venture any deeper into the vines, allow me to take a moment to tell you a little more about what to expect from this course. You have signed up to do a 16-week course with Shore Academy. This course consists of 4 modules, and each module consists of 8 lessons. In Module 1, we'll lay the basic foundations for this course and introduce you to the wonderful world of wine. Once the foundations are laid, we'll progress to Module 2, which is intermediate. In this module, we will follow the journey from berry all the way into bottle. After Module 2 is complete, we'll step into the cellar for Module 3, which is advanced. We'll learn about the journey beyond the bottle and And finally, we'll wrap up your course with a world tour in Module 4, where you will learn all about the wines of the world. At the end of this journey, which is the exciting part, you'll receive a professional diploma in wine appreciation. Most of the world's vineyards is of the Vitis vinifera species, and there are up to 10,000 different varieties. After about 3 years, the vine can produce grapes that are good enough for wine production, but the quality of the grapes will improve as the vine gets more established and older. After about 30 years, the vine might slow down its production, but many argue that this is when the vine is able to produce some of the best quality grapes, even though the quantity might be less. Did you know that the oldest vineyard in the world that is still used for wine production is in Slovenia and is 400 years old? Although grapes are only picked or harvested once a year, at the end of summer or beginning of autumn, vineyard farmers or viticulturalists work year-round to make sure their vines are happy and healthy and able to ripen their grapes. The entire year's work comes down to the harvest season. During this critical time, grapes are picked and then taken to the cellar, where they will be processed and turned into wine. So let's take a look at the humble grape. Wine grapes are different to normal eating grapes or table grapes. Wine grapes are cultivated solely for the production of wine and are typically smaller, have thick skins, and contain seeds. Table grapes, on the other hand, are cultivating, turning into grape juice or raisins. These grapes are typically bigger than wine grapes, have thinner skins, and can either be seeded or seedless. Making wine from table grapes is possible, it just might not have a lot of flavor or character. Did you know that in wine grapes, the juice from both red grapes and white grapes are more or less the same color? Before I explain why this is, allow me to tell you a little bit about your course materials that are available for purchase. If you click on the Resources tab on your homepage, you will find all of your course materials. In these materials, you'll find things like your summary notes and slides to this lesson, which you can review at your leisure if you want to catch up on the content or keep them at hand to refer to in the future. You'll also have access to some of the bonus materials. Here at Shaw, we have designed a special wine journal for you that you can use to document your journey throughout this course. I've also designed a wine score sheet that will come in handy later when you're doing analytical wine tastings. I'm also very excited about the special flavor and aroma wheels and wine tasting mat that I've designed for you that is a lot of fun to use while you are tasting wine. These are just a few things that you'll have access to, so I encourage you to go have a look. Throughout this course, I'll do my best to equip you with the tools that you need for success, but it is up to you to use them. So the color of red wine actually comes not from the juice, but from the skins, and is extracted during skin contact. The dark red skins of red grapes contain anthocyanins, which is the compound that makes red wine red. The skins and seeds of the grapes also contain polyphenols called tannins. Extractions of tannins and anthocyanins occur during the process of alcoholic fermentation, and the tannins contribute towards the mouthfeel of the wine. So like I mentioned, tannins are polyphenols, and they are what cause the drying out sensation in your mouth. A highly tannic wine will be very grippy and cause your lips to stick to your teeth and completely dry your mouth out, whereas a less tannic wine will be smoother and less grippy. We will discuss the tannins and the extraction thereof in more detail in another lesson. There are many factors that make wine taste like it does, similarly to what makes you, you. In a nutshell, it comes down to two elements, namely nature and nurture. Nature refers to the elements found in nature that will have an influence on the grapevine and thereby its grapes. This includes factors like the grape varietal, as well as the terroir, which is essentially the personality of the grape. Typically, the vine prefers a long, warm summer with enough sunshine to completely ripen its grapes, and cold, wet winters where it can rest in dormancy before the next growing season. Terroir is a term that was coined by the French and encapsulates the natural environment in which grapes are grown. Terroir includes elements such as climate, soil properties, and topography. We will discuss terroir in more detail in Module 2. Nurture refers to the human element and includes how we as winemakers and viticulturalists intervene in the process. This can include elements such as when the grapes are picked, how they are processed in the cellar, and the specifics of the fermentation and maturation process. All of these elements will influence the style of the wine, and this can explain why, for example, a Cabernet Sauvignon from France can have the same personality or traits as a Cabernet Sauvignon from South Africa, but their styles will differ. Alcoholic fermentation is a natural phenomenon that occurs when yeast cells metabolize sugars found in ripe grapes and produce alcohol as a result. Ethanol is the type of alcohol that is produced during alcoholic fermentation, and along with alcohol, there are loads of more magical conversions and interactions and byproducts that are produced. For example, you might have picked up tropical fruit characteristics in a wine like Sauvignon Blanc. These aromas and flavors are as a result of alcoholic fermentation. It was Louis Pasteur who discovered that yeast cells were in fact responsible for this phenomenon in 1864. After this discovery, it allowed us to understand the chemical reactions much better and allowed for a lot of innovation in the world of fermentation, specifically for winemaking. Before we continue on our wine journey, I'd like to take a moment to let you know that coming up in Lesson 2, we're going to learn all about the bottle basics. We will learn how to uncork a wine bottle and what you can do when you are in the unfortunate situation where you've got a bottle of wine but no corkscrew. We'll go through the basic information that you'll find on a wine label, and I'll help you interpret what that information means. We'll also talk about sustainability and alternative wine packaging. And of course, at the end, which is the best part, we'll taste some wine. Today, the main yeast strain used in winemaking is Saccharomyces cerevisiae, which is commonly known as brewer's yeast. The reason why this strain is the chosen one is because it is a really strong fermenter with a high alcohol tolerance. In other words, there's a higher guarantee that your juice will turn into wine and all the sugars present will be converted into alcohol. If this doesn't happen, you could be stuck with something called a sluggish or a stuck fermentation. This happens when your yeast cells die before all the sugar has been consumed because the environment has become too toxic due to the production of alcohol. So in essence, you've only completed the fermentation process partially. And this is problematic because sugar is also food for other microorganisms like bacteria. And this creates an opportunity for those bad boys to get to work and turn your wine into vinegar. During fermentation, Saccharomyces cerevisiae can also produce many favorable byproducts, like we mentioned earlier. Esters are an example of this, and they are like a wine's own perfume and are formed during alcoholic fermentation. Examples of esters found in wine are green apple, strawberry, and anise. The process of alcoholic fermentation is so complex, and there are many factors that influence the outcomes of this process. We will really dive into the alchemy of fermentation in Module 2. Did you know that all of the aromas found in wine come from the grapes and the process of alcoholic fermentation and maturation? So, if you pick up aromas of cherry and blackberry, they come from the grapes themselves, and not because somebody added a load of berries into the wine. Trust me, you can dance. Or can you? Wine is wonderful, but we need to remember that it is an alcoholic beverage and needs to be enjoyed responsibly. Overindulgence in alcohol has the tendency to make people act silly, irresponsible, and sometimes in dangerous ways. It is therefore no surprise that there are laws and restrictions put into place to counteract some of these behaviors and to encourage responsible use. If you are in the United States, you can legally drink alcohol once you are 21 years old. You need to be 20 years old in Japan and Iceland, whereas in most other countries like South Africa and Australia, you can buy booze after your 18th birthday. In some countries like Germany and Belgium, you can legally order a beer at the age of 16. If you are going to enjoy alcoholic beverages from time to time, please make sure you inform yourself on the local drinking laws and restrictions and always drink responsibly. When enjoying an alcoholic beverage, remember water is life and don't forget to stay hydrated. Legally, all alcoholic beverages need to indicate on the packaging or label what the alcohol content is. Normally, the range of alcohol percentage in wine varies between 8 and 16% alcohol by volume, or ABV. ABV, or alcohol by volume, is the unit to measure how much pure ethanol is in 100 milliliters of the liquid. In the UK and in the USA, the concept of alcohol units are used as guidelines for responsible drinking. 1 unit of alcohol is defined as 10 milliliters of pure ethanol. Typical servings of common alcoholic drinks may contain anywhere between 1 and 3 units. For example, 250 milliliters of wine with an alcohol content of 12% contains about 3 units of alcohol. In general, a healthy adult can approximately metabolize or break down 1 unit of alcohol per hour, but this can vary depending on age, weight, gender, and overall health. Men and women are advised not to drink more than 14 units of alcohol a week on a regular basis. Alcohol is also a contributor towards the flavor and mouthfeel of wine. Alcohol can give an indication of the wine's intensity and body, and can also give you a clue of when the grapes were picked. Grapes that were picked later and therefore riper will naturally have a higher sugar content as sugar accumulates in the grape as the ripening season progresses. As a result, there's more sugar available for the yeast cells to feast upon, and thereby more ethanol will be produced. When we taste wine, we look for 5 key components. They are sweetness, acidity, tannin, alcohol, and body. When tasting a wine, we learn to identify and explore these components separately, and in the end, we need to consider the balance of the wine in its entirety. Alcohol can also contribute a slight touch of sweetness and adds to the body and mouthfeel of the wine. We'll explore the elements of tasting in detail later in the module when we get to tasting and analyses. Finally, it's the moment we've all been waiting for. It's wine o'clock. When it comes to appreciating wine, it's important to understand where it's come from, what it is, and what it is comprised of. Now that we have covered some of these foundations, we start to understand that wine is a complex and unique beverage. A big part of understanding wine with confidence is simply adjusting your approach. I encourage you to approach wine with an open mind and document your experience. Remember, taste is personal, and there's no right or wrong, in my opinion, when it comes to which wines you enjoy. My grandfather always used to say, there's no such thing as a bad wine. Some wines are just more enjoyable than others. When you are tasting wine, first take a moment to take a look at the wine in the glass. Notice the color. Then go ahead and smell and see if any specific aromas jump out of the glass. Finally, take a sip and taste the wine. Really tune in to what you are experiencing and notice the flavors and sensations of the wine on your palate. It is It's with this approach that I'd like you to celebrate completing your first lesson today. Go ahead and open your favorite bottle of wine and explain to us why this wine is your favorite. Tell us what you see, what you smell, and what you taste, and why this wine appeals to you. Is it a particular aroma you pick up, like strawberries, for example? Or is it a particular flavor, like vanilla or spice? Maybe it's the tannin structure that is silky, or a lovely racy and fresh acidity. You can tell us all about your experience on social media using the hashtag #SureWine. Let's take a look at the 5 main skills that you're developing in this course. Firstly, tasting, including wine tasting, palate development, and wine faults. Next, you're going to learn how to navigate the wine bottle, careers and terminology in the wine industry, as well as the elements of wine service. In the viticulture and enology department, you're going to learn about primary alcoholic fermentation, secondary fermentation and maturation, as well as common viticultural practices. You're also going to learn about some principal wine styles, principal grape varietals, and food and wine pairing. And lastly, in the final module, we're going to study the wines of the world. We're going to have a look at old world wines, new world wines, and innovation in the wine industry. You have taken the first step today, and this is just the tip of the iceberg. As in wine, one never stops learning. As in anything, but especially in wine, I truly believe one learns best by doing. So keep on tasting, and I really encourage you to document your journey every step of the way. So have patience, my little grapes. Soon you shall become wine. Our mission here at Shore Academy is to change lives by providing great education, which is accessible and affordable to everyone all over the world, giving you the flexibility to learn your way. We are globally recognized and align with the standards of education all across the world. Here at Shore, we offer real engagement, qualifications, and success, giving you the most up-to-date industry developments with subject matter experts like myself, allowing you to master your practical skills and achieve your goals. Congratulations once again on completing Lesson 1. Time to pop a bottle and celebrate the start of your journey. I hope you enjoyed your lesson today, and I'm really looking forward to seeing you all soon for Lesson 2. In this module, we're going to journey through all the elements of wine appreciation, and I truly encourage you to journal, photograph, taste, discuss, and wonder about this glorious liquid. The aim of this course is to remove the pretension that can sometimes surround wine and focus on building your sensory memory banks, and most importantly, to appreciate and enjoy wine. I hope you are as excited as I am, because the road ahead sure is going to be an adventure. That's it today from me. Cheers for now. Thank you for signing up to Shore Academy, where we focus on helping you shape your future your way.